Hello everyone and welcome to coverage of Fresh Sim Racing's feature race event here at Brands Hatch, Indy. This is round one of our Vintage Touring Car Championship. If you haven't already seen it, make sure you check out the sprint race highlights that were on YouTube as well. This is our feature race event. We're looking for 52 laps here around Brands Hatch, Indy. As we're going to take a quick look here at the starting grid. Number 35, Red Mercedes, apologies. That's Ambient Stub. He was the winner in the sprint race. He lines up on pole position. Fantastic race for him in the previous one there. At Enter All Sorts in second place in the white 30 Mercedes. He'll be looking to improve on one position, hopefully get that podium place. Behind him is the 83 Copper Car of 8 Ball or Mikey in the BMW. He starts in third. In fourth is Ollie. He'll be having a slowdown penalty for the first corner after a glitch. He started the grid higher than he should be. So in fifth, there's Sam Thumbfinger in the 31 black Mercedes. He's in front of the number 5 green BMW of Ben Apex. Behind him, number 9 Mercedes BMW. The red and silver BMW there, that's Nathbet, and he lines up alongside the red Momo car of Lord of Lincoln. These two will be battling throughout, I'm sure. That's in front of Renier Team in the 45 white BMW. He lines up in front of Jeff Spencer and the 7 silver BMW there, and line up the grid is Wayne starting in final place in the 10 blue and silver BMW. As we look for the cars on the grid, ready to start, looking up into Paddock Hill Bend, and this is the short run into the first corner, which hopefully all 11 drivers will be able to get off the line nice and smooth. And the drivers are in the cars as the lights are about to go green. And away we go. Fantastic start there from Lord of Lincoln in the back of the grid. Ambient Stub off the line clearly, and into under pressure a little bit there from Mikey as they come around Paddock Hill Bend. All cars seem to be off the line in the first corner, nice and clean. As Ambient looks to take the defensive line, as does Enter. These guys very close to the come around Druids. There's the red car, Nathbit going around the outside there, not able to make that move. As we watch the guys come around the Graham Hill Bend. It's 1-2 Mercedes, BMW third, Mercedes in fourth, as we are watching Inter climb up the hill, chasing Ambient Stub down. Ambient Stub taking the defensive line, trying to shake the toe. It's very strong slipstream here in these cars. Then breaks out to his outside line, taking a wider entry into the corner, hoping to gain enough momentum off the down the hill. Has another quick look on the inside, nothing to do there. Ambient's keeping a nice clean line. He'll be wanting a repeat of the sprint race where he was able to break away from the field and have a relatively quiet race after initial first combat. As we see 8 Ball there running a little bit wide, acknowledging the slowdown. Have a replay here of an incident on lap 1, I believe, as we see there's a moment there with 45 and number 8, that's Renier Team and Ben Apex. They've had an incident. Now hopefully no cars haven't got too much damage. Watching the number 9 car, Nathbit there, getting very leery on the exit of the corner, and that's given Lord of Lincoln a nice run as they come up the main straight. We jump on board with Ollie here, who's watching this all unfold. Lord of Lincoln gets the outside line as Nathbit again gets leery on the exit. The car oversteering on the exit hook on here. All 3 drivers there have a bit of a parking incident there, and Ollie's been knocked from behind the spinning round. That's Jeff Spencer there climbing up the hill, just caught up the end of the battle. This is the number 10 car. The blue bonnet tells me that's Wayne. After that incident, he's looking on the inside of Jeff Spencer as they come into Surtees, and he makes that move stick. Now we're back live watching Sam Thumbfinger putting Mikey under pressure, A8 Ball under pressure. This is the battle for third place. Ambient, Stub and Inter further up the hill. Looks like Mikey's had to slow down, another slow down penalty there. Just acknowledge that, and that releases the third Mercedes as 1, 2, 3 Mercedes in red, white and black. Coming downhill. A very interesting start of the race here. The front driver's able to get away nice and cleanly. They're breaking a gap to the pack behind. This is a very long race for these drivers. 52 laps around Brands Hatch Indy here. Sprint race was approximately 18 laps in the 15-minute sprint race. These drivers during this race will have a mandatory pit. To have it's very tactful. You have to make sure you haven't got any damage on board. You take that mandatory pit, and then later on have an instant you have to go back into pit a second time for damage. That can ruin a driver's race for sure. Sam Thumbfinger is closing up to his teammate Inter All Sorts along the back straight here in the 2 Mercedes. Sam looking like he's got the initial pace. He had a good sprint run. Sam, a few errors and little mistakes here and there with slowdown penalties stopped him from getting onto the podium and finished 5th in the sprint race. He's now trying to put his teammate under pressure as Inter All Sorts looks to take the natural line. He's not defending here, but he has run wide a little bit there. That will be a slowdown penalty, I'm sure, and he's acknowledged he's yielded to his teammate there, and Sam Thumbfinger up into 2nd place. This battle allowing Ambient Stub to get a good advantage out front. He now has a little bit of breathing room to try and break away from the 2 runners in back. Sam going defensive from his teammate as they're coming into the first corner at Paddock Hill Bend. Very contrasting lines there between the 2 teammates. They've practiced a fair amount together, but they both have different lines. Sam going defensive into Druids, able to carry more speed into the corner, but runs wide on exit. Will give that into the opportunity as to go down into the Graham Hill Bend. Not on this lap, both drivers running ever so slightly wide. Will that be a slowdown penalty? That corner is difficult for the drivers here as they come around 30s into McLaren and through clearways. In fact, yep, that is there. Sam flashing the lights, letting his teammate know that he has a slowdown penalty. He moves clear off the racing line. That does bring Mikey 8 ball behind into contention as Sam Thumbfinger is back up to speed. That Mercedes able to put down so much more power on the straights, but so much slower around the corner. We saw there 8 Ball's able to gain a nice bit of advantage. As we jump across to a replay here of number 9, that's Nafbit running very wide around clearways. That'll drop him down a few places. Back on board here with Mikey, putting Sam Thumbfinger under pressure. He'll be right on board. Coming in 30s into McLaren, very difficult complex, a very shallow S type bend that throws the car off camber. Mikey will be looking to improve hopefully on his P3 position in the sprint race. As we watch the different lines as we come into the turn 1, Mikey a little bit further away from Apex, hoping to carry the speed around the corner as we come up towards Druids. Mercedes having to brake a lot earlier and take a lot wider line around Druids. Trying to maximise that power that has the car, but the BMW not as powerful, but is considerably lighter around here. No Ford Escorts on this grid. Drivers unable to make this grid for this race. We should hopefully see the Ford Escorts back with us next round at Donington Park on Sunday. We jump on board here with that's Ben Apex looking to make a move on number 9 Nafbit with Wayne in pursuit as well. Jumping on board with Ben, who has tucked to the inside there. It's a fantastic move by Ben Apex. Forces his way through, no contact made, and that's the place is his. He's now free to chase Jeff Spencer up the hill in number 7 BMW. Ben looks like he's got the power on the inside line. Both cars the same, might be running different setups, and Ben is through, is clear. That's 2 spaces and 2 corners there, 2 positions and 2 corners there for Ben Apex. Well, he needs to look to defend. He's using wider line to keep the momentum up, and Jeff Spencer just doesn't have the line there. He's running wide. That's going to open him up to attack, as we're looking at a replay of 45. That's Renier team clipping the corner of Surtees, the very tricky left-hander. And as he's trying to get spun it round, he's now parked on the apex waiting for the front runners. That's the first place, second place and third place. He's caught Sam Thumfinger there, and the Mercedes has gone round. I believe the Mercedes has gone into the pits, so any small amounts of damage you'll want to get fixed as soon as possible, as we ride on board with Nafbit looking to take advantage here of Jeff Spencer, who was overtaken on the last lap by Ben Apex. And Wayne is in the background as well, looking to take advantage. Jeff Spencer able to get a better exit of the corner there, drive away up the hill. Slipstream in this car starting to come into effect in the second part of the straight. Contrasting lines into turn 1. Very shallow line by Nafbit, but a wider line by Jeff Spencer, but that has got compromised on the exit. Nafbit looks to the outside, jumps on the inside, later on the brakes. Ben Spencer's running wide. Is the move done? It is. And that's a place for Nafbit after making an error a few laps ago. Another replay here for Renier team running wide onto the gravel, and that's into the wall. Into the wall goes Renier team. I believe he's come out of the pits as well, so he doesn't seem to be moving from their Renier team. I think his engine has given up after the result of that collision, and a numerous collisions so far this race, and that is Renier team effectively retiring from this race. We're now left with 10 drivers as we're watching Nafbit come up the hill under pressure from Jeff Spencer. Ben Apex, you saw on the bottom of your screen there, he's broken away now. Clear gap to the drivers behind. And Jeff is starting to come under pressure there from Wayne. As Wayne looks to take a move on the inside, thinks better of it as he rides back up the hill. Very interesting battle, this battle for 6th, 7th and 8th place as it stands. All three BMWs matched in power as Wayne runs wide there. He'll have to yield for a slowdown penalty. That's Ollie behind who may be able to take advantage of that. We see Nafbit go very wide on that corner there. We saw Renier team do the same thing a few laps ago. Nafbit able to hold it, but he's lost a considerable amount of time to Jeff Spencer behind. Jeff will look to try and use his run up the hill to try and overtake, and even more so, all the time Ben Apex is pushing further and further ahead. Jeff Spencer there going from being the hunter to the hunted as Wayne puts him under pressure coming out of turn 1. Again, different contrasting lines to Druid's corner. Very tricky corner, very easy to understeer and run wide. These cars running heavy on fuel for the feature race, 52 laps. As Wayne just runs there wide in the background, has a moment with the wall. Just got a little bit wide on the exit of Graham Hill Bend and caught a wheel onto the grass, and that has spun him round. This is a battle been going on for a fair few number of laps now. Jeff Spencer is not letting Nafbit out of his sights. He wants that position back. He's putting him under a mountain of pressure. Has a look on the inside. Nafbit not able to pull away after overtaking a few laps ago. And all the while Ollie behind is catching these two drivers as they are battling. Nafbit running a little bit wide on that corner. Have to slow down ever slightly, or he'll end up having to take driver penalties. He has, as we see Jeff Spencer close this up even further on this corner. Half a car length between the two drivers now as they come onto the back straight. Nafbit taking the defensive line, making Jeff Spencer do the hard work going around the outside. As we come into turn 1 and getting very sideways, that back end of the car is very loose under this heavy fuel load. As we see, Renier team's car there, just in the bottom of the shot, it's got to the top of the hill and it just doesn't seem to be going further. We're on board now with Ollie, who's caught up to the back of Jeff Spencer, and that's allowed Nafbit to gain a bit of space. Will Ollie look to try and take the move into the last corners? Ollie taking a much wider line into the final corner to try and maximise the speed up the hill. Will he have a speed advantage coming into turn 1? Not on this time. Will he have a look here? We come round into Druids. Ollie a little bit later on the brakes. We watch the car's concertina up. Has a look on the inside. Not this time. Gets the car slowed down. Looking on the inside. Oh, a little bit of a moment there for Ollie on the exit the corner. This has given Jeff some breathing room. Jeff will be happy to be as high up at the grid as he is. Didn't have the greatest of sprint races after a couple of collisions made him take damage, but he's under a lot of pressure. He has been during this race. He's been putting pressure on himself, but he's under a lot of pressure here from Ollie. Again, we see the contrasting lines and further ahead Nafbit very wide. Well, Ollie's looked to make the switch back on the inside. Jeff goes defensive, making Ollie go the long way round. Ollie gets the car stopped in time, looking for the cutback. Is there enough room for Ollie to squeeze around here? Very short circuit, very tight circuit. We've seen a couple of overtakes so far. As Ollie gets a better run off Graham Hillbend, takes to the inside, and he has the pace. He has the place, and that is Ollie up a position, and Jeff unfortunately has dropped down a place. They'll now want to use the slipstream of the car ahead to try and catch up to the rest of the pack, who have broken away from the rest of the field. We jump back here to have a look at Inter, who's closed up to the back of Ambient Stub. Less than half a second between the two Mercedes drivers. This is the battle for first place. As we're about a third of the way through. Here, Ambient Stub out in first, Inter in second. Mikey 8-Ball in third, Lord of Lincoln fourth, Ben Apex fifth, Nafbit sixth. The front runners catching up to Jeff Spencer, who will be a laps driver ever so soon. I'm sure Jeff has the racing announced to make sure he gets well off the racing line for the front runners here. It's done with whilst enjoying the battle here. He will not want this pressure for much longer. This Mercedes is a very difficult car to drive, especially around such a tight circuit as Jeff Spencer gets well off the racing line to allow the front two drivers through. Ambient has benefited a little bit from that exchange there, as Inter has slowed down. He's taken his slowdown penalty. He must have run wide of one of the corners, and that has allowed Ambient Stub to break away. A good 3-4 second lead for Ambient Stub now. Inter will be kicking himself. He wasn't able to put Ambient Stub under pressure for longer. This is a replay here of that's Ollie making his move around Jeff Spencer. And Jeff coming up to the exit. Oh, he just lights up the rears on exit and spins the car around. We saw Nathbit do that on the end of the final lap, and that's going to cost him so much time and speed up the straight. As we're watching back on board with Ollie, who's had a very interesting race. He was part of an incident in lap 2 which spun him round, and he's fighting his way back through the field. And behind him is Sam Thumfinger, who's also doing the same. A moment with with Stricken Renier team. He's done his pit stop. He's now chasing down the front runners. As we watch the power of that Mercedes come down the straight, Ollie goes defensive. Sam thinks better of it this lap, backs off. Will he have the better exit? Ollie runs a little bit wide and gets the car sideways. Sam looking up the inside. And the move is done. Ollie is looking to fight on exit. And Sam is now free to chase down Nathbit. The pace of that Mercedes clear to see under pressure. There's so much torque. You see the speed difference here in the two cars. Nathbit moves out of the line. Doesn't seem to put much up a fight. He must know that the Mercedes has so much power, and Sam isn't his batter. He's going to try and use the slipstream to pull a gap to Ollie, who's been closing the gap to him each lap, but he runs wide there. That is surely going to give Ollie an advantage coming into the next few corners. We move again to a little bit moment there. Ollie has the same moment Nathbit and Renier team had, coming around 30s, able to hold it, but that's cost him a fair bit of time, the time that he gained, and as a result he's straight into the pits. He's using this moment to get his mandatory pit stop out of the way. Good race so far from Ollie. He'll be looking to try and do a race of damage limitation as he works his way back through the field. He's hoping this slightly earlier pit stop will be able to give him a clear run through. Something that Sam Thumfinger is used to a good effect after a collision earlier on in the race. This is the number 29 car of Lord of Lincoln, the red and yellow Momo livery. He's put a lap, I believe, there on Ollie, but behind is the green BMW of Bain Apex, who will be looking to hunt him down. A few moments here or there, but relatively clean racing here for round 1 here at Brands Hatch Indy with Fresh Sim Racing. These vintage touring cars showing that they can still pull up a good race even in the virtual world. Fresh Sim Racing is a new sim racing league on Project Cars 2. We'll be racing these vintage touring cars every Sunday. We're going to have a default setup road class series on Wednesdays that will run very similar to a rallycross sort of setup, short sprint races. We even do special event team races, which take place in the breaks for the vintage touring car. The first special team event is going to be the V8 supercars and V6 Megans around Bathurst, an hour of Bathurst. No drivers' points on show, only team points to be had. It's old school endurance racing. You want to be completing as many laps for your team as possible. The team with the most number of laps completed takes home the points. As we come back to the racing at hand, we're watching Lord of Lincoln is driving ever so immaculately. Nice soft driving style. But Ben Apex, who's got around Ollie, the lapped car behind, now free to hunt down, and he's closed that gap up ever so slightly in the last few races. Just listening to the BMW engine come round as Lord Lincoln comes down Paddock Hill Bend, not using all the track. Cut here to a replay. This is the number 59 car. This is Ollie. Oh, he's had a moment. He's put a wheel wide. We saw Wayne do that earlier in the race. As Graham Hill Bend claims its second victim of the race so far. Now we're keeping an eye on Ben Apex, who is closing the gap on Lord of Lincoln. This is the battle for 4th position. Ben Apex didn't, Lord of Lincoln and Ben Apex didn't have the greatest of sprint races. They know they could have done better. Lord of Lincoln started up, got quite high in the grid during the sprint race, but then ended up dropping down after a couple of incidents. Finished 7th, I believe, in the standings. The sprint race is available on the Fresh Sim Racing YouTube channel. It's open to watch. It's well worth the watch. Very interesting racing. This feature event, a lot longer race, 52 laps here. The drivers are stretched out a little bit in the battles, few and far between, but they have been very racy. What we've seen so far, Ben Apex is just keeping his momentum going, that high level of consistency, chasing down the red car ahead. Certainly easier to be chasing a car around this circuit. These cars do have a little bit of wake, a little bit of dirty air, but having the car in front, a target to hunt down, does make racing around this circuit a lot easier compared to seeing the car in the mirror and knowing that the green image in his rearview mirror will be getting bigger and bigger every lap. The gap's down to about 1.5 seconds. Jump on board with Ben Apex. We see that both cars avoiding the apex of the corner with this heavy lot of fuels. A slower car there who's had a moment. That's Wayne, who gets well off the racing line. Let these drivers through. Good driving etiquette there by Wayne. Ben's able to take a lot of different line around that exit corner, maintain his speed up the hill. He's closing in as we come into the Graham Hill Bend. Not close enough to do it on this time around, I don't think. Very tricky to perform an overtake here. Very easy for the cars to wash out wide. Ben uses all the track as Lord of Lincoln goes defensive. But Lord of Lincoln doesn't feel the need to go enough defensive at the moment. But he is now covering the inside line as they come down into the Graham Hill Bend. We've seen a few cars go around on exit here. Not the case on this time around. Ben, have a look on the inside. Not this time around. This is a move he pulled on Nath bit and it worked to perfection, but Lord of Lincoln a little bit further ahead. He's able to defend and hold his position. And now looking to use the advantage power up the hill with a better exit at the corner. Will he be able to get him on the inside of turn 1? The two cars go side by side on the exit. Coming up to Druids, Lord Lincoln, a little bit of nose in front, not able to defend, takes a wider line, and that's Ben through. As we have a look at what happened with Wayne here, yeah, caught the exit corner, and fantastic work by Wayne there to avoid the wall. That looked almost inevitable. These cars heavy on fuel, rear wheel drive, just hitting that exit of the corner gets very slippy as the clouds have rolled in. starting to get more overcast. That means the temperatures are going to start dropping and the cars are going to get even more slidey. As we watch Ben Apex pull a gap on Lord of Lincoln after overtaking in the previous lap. Lord Lincoln is not able to keep up, but in the background we see the ever lurking, the black Mercedes of Sam Thumbfinger. He's had the incident earlier in the race, he's had his pit stop, he's now looking to hunt these two for position. Ben Apex currently in 4th, Lord of Lincoln in 5th and Sam Thumbfinger in 6th. As we're past the halfway point in this race, we should look to see cars looking to take their mandatory pit stop now, the guys who haven't had incidents in the earlier on in the race. We're watching Lord of Lincoln and Ben Apex, the green 8 BMW there, he's into his pit stop. He's managed to pull a gap on Lord of Lincoln and he's made his pit stop. That frees up Sam Thumbfinger, who's currently his plans working to perfection after his recovery drive. Able to get a nice clean run. He'll want as clean run as possible so he can catch up to the front runners. Now we are watching as Sam closes up on Lord of Lincoln. This battle is for position, but Sam has pitted, Lord of Lincoln has not pitted as it stands. Will we see the red car dive into the pits, or will we see him just move out of the way, or will he battle on track? These cars coming around, car leaving pit lane. Fortunately not in a position to affect these two drivers, as Sam gets a little bit sideways coming in the exit of the corner. Able to catch up to the car ahead. Has a look to take around the outside, thinks better of it, looking for a better exit. Around the corner, runs a tiny bit wide. Something we've seen a lot in this Mercedes. Not looking to make a move here. Takes a alternate line here, brakes nice and early, looking for the cutback up the hill on the back straight. As Lord of Lincoln goes into the pits and Sam gets collected in that. It's the second time this race Sam has had a moment as he moves onto the track, moves out of the way of the driver unlapping himself, which I believe is Ollie. And Sam is now going to be coming under pressure from the leaders behind who have yet to pit. Sam will be wanting to close up the gap to the leaders to approximately 20 seconds to compensate for the gap. As we're watching click here of Nafbit, and Graham Hill Pen takes its 3rd or 4th victim of this race. Nafbit able to spin it around and keep out of the way of Mikey behind. We're back on board here with Ben Apex, who after the two drivers have pitted, Lord of Lincoln is back ahead. Lord of Lincoln is back ahead after the two drivers have done their pit stop. Ben Apex got ahead on track, come into the pits. Lord of Lincoln went another 2-3 laps later, took his pit stop later and was able to manage an overcut and get back ahead of Ben Apex. But Ben Apex looks the faster driver at this moment in these conditions. Will he be able to replicate the overtake he managed earlier on? Ben taking that inside line. This is something we saw earlier on. Lord of Lincoln taking the shallower line. Managed to keep the pace on the outside. Will Ben look on the inside? He does, and he's through. A remake of the previous incident there, where Ben Apex was able to get past Lord of Lincoln. Lord of Lincoln not putting up a massive amount of defence. And the drivers are through. As we're looking at ambient stuff, this is your race leader, who's had a relatively quiet race as he closes into a couple of the back markers with the white Mercedes of Inter behind. Inter was close to ambient stub earlier in the race, but had to adhere to slow down penalties after running wide. That gives ambient stub the breathing room, and he's been able to just go at his own pace. He'll be looking to take his second victory of the day after victory in the sprint race. I'm sure he'll want to get a nice lap in where it's clear to be able to get a fastest lap, I'm sure. Ambient flashing his lights at the car behind, acknowledging the driver who got clear off the racing line. It's been an almost effortless drive here from Ambient Stub. He's just able to hit that level of consistency in a car that's not necessarily the easiest car to drive fast. Inter is slowly closing that gap though behind. I'm sure Ambient will be aware of the white Mercedes in the background, looming ever larger in his mirrors. Will we see Ambient Stub coming to a pit stop anytime soon? There should be plenty of tight space behind. He will be looking to get his pit stop and be free of Inter, who's also free of the back marker and now free to hunt Ambient Stub down. As we see Ambient run a little bit wide there. The car getting a tiny bit of understeer on exit, mounting the curb. And we see the three Mercedes cars on track again in a slightly different order, but we are seeing them on the track again. These cars, as previously mentioned, they have a high amount of torque, but they come at the cost of being much heavier and a lot more difficult to drive. Definitely need a lot more for sim hours practice to get these cars around these tracks quickly. Ambient Stub closing the gap on the back marker. Sam Thumbfinger looking to get a lap on his probably one of his closest competitors to the championship. Into Sam Thumbfinger's teammate closing the gap behind. What we saw in the background there, he's had a moment coming into Graham Hill Bend. Graham Hill Bend has took a number of victims today, as we see Sam Thumbfinger get well out of the way of the race leader. Now we're watching two teammates here of Bring Home Points. This is the number 10 of Wayne and number 9 Nafbit. Wayne is a lap down, but it looks like Nafbit's using Wayne just to try and get a bit of a run up the hill. Wayne, he's had a few moments. He's been not really involved in incidents, but he's been nearby when the incidents have happened. And that has cost him a considerable amount of time in this race. But he's pulling a gap to Nafbit there up the hill. The runs wide and exit of Druids. The green BMW of Ben Apex looming in the background, looking to pull a lap on these two drivers. Wayne holding the outside line. Almost looks like he's waiting for Nafbit to come through there, but Nafbit just doesn't have the pace in the car at this stage to be able to lap his teammate. A question how much these drivers are running on fuel, as Wayne runs wide now, takes a slowdown penalty and moves clear out of the way of his teammate. Hopefully we'll see Wayne able to fight further up the grid order in future races, as he has a moment again at that corner. Bit of a nemesis corner for Wayne there. Bit of a nemesis corner for a number of drivers. keeping an eye on Mikey there, closing to lap a few drivers, and the 83 Copper BMW. He's sitting in third place as we're watching drivers move clear off the racing line. He's had a very quiet, very consistent race. Has 8-ball. Saw it in the sprint race. Saw it in a number of races that 8-ball's been is in before. This is something he's well known for, keeping his nose clean, keeping the laps ticking over. And as I say that, there's a moment, the car has a very awkward moment there, and A8-ball is into the wall on turn 1. He'll surely have damage with a collision of that magnitude. I wonder how much time he's going to lose coming around the track. He'll surely be making his mandatory pit stop at the end of this lap. There's no way he'll be able to finish the rest of the race on with a damaged car. Yeah, and Mikey 8-ball is into the pits. He'll be in for the stop. And it's definitely not a stop and go, so that's repairing damage. As you watch a slow motion replay here, he turns into the apex of the corner and the car just snaps back mid-corner over the little bit of a rise there and propels him directly into the wall. Little bit of bad luck there. I'm not sure what kind of happened. I wonder if his car bottomed out and just kicked the car left. As we're watching Sam Thumbfinger, who has been lapped by Ambient Stub. Ambient Stub has not been able to break away. Here Sam looking to use the slipstream of the car ahead of the race leader to try and propel his recovery race. Sam has been involved in a couple of collisions that have dropped him down the order, and he's taken his pit stop early. That's put him in the position that he is now. Ambient Stub leading the race, currently yet to pit. With the last quarter of this race left hang out, Ambient Stub with the lights on there, letting the lap car know he is making his pit stop, and that frees Sam Thumbfinger up 54 seconds or so behind the leader now. He'll want to maximise as much as possible. As we're watching on board with Inter, who's had his pit stop, he's completed stop, but he's got a slow down penalty there. He's got a slow down penalty on the lap where he needed to be flawless to be able to be closing up to Ambient Stub. Has Ambient Stub been able to do his pit stop and keep hold of the lead of the race? As we watch the white Mercedes climb up the hill, the pit lane is clear. That means Ambient Stub has been able to retain the lead, with Inter in second and A8-ball is currently in third, but Sam Thumbfinger will be closing the third place driver down very, very quickly. Just watching here, Jeff, a driver who was in the middle of all the action in the first half of the race. He had a little bit of a moment, but he's had his pit stop and he's starting to close down on Nathan ahead. These two drivers almost inseparable for the majority of this race. Lord of Lincoln, the red BMW, a front running car, he's round to lap Nathan. Jeff Spencer seems to be the faster of the two BMWs at this stage of the race. Nathan is getting a good toe off the front running car ahead, which will balance the gap between the two drivers. But Jeff definitely has considerable pace. He would be ruining a few earlier errors which has got him in the position that he is. Again, another driver I'm sure who will be seeing a lot more of as we're heading to the Donington National Circuit at next week's event in the vintage touring cars here at Fresh Sim Racing. The Discord link will be available at the end of this video if this is something you wish to take part in. We are a very friendly community and we welcome a lot of new drivers. A lot of the drivers part of Fresh Sim Racing are relatively new, or at least new to league racing. Jeff Spencer, I believe, is one of those drivers who, like many people out there, took up sim racing as a result of lockdown, and is showing he has a relatively good level of pace and consistency to be able to have a good race. We are watching the race leader here. This is Ambient Stub, who has a clear advantage over the second placed Inter. Flashing lights making him aware the lapped car, and know he's thankful for getting clear off the racing line. 2 laps to go now. It's been a very long race, but a very quiet race for the front leader. And barring a series of catastrophic errors, the race is Ambient's for the taking. We jump on board here with Ambient Stub riding his penultimate lap. Nice break in the straight line, takes to the apex of Paddock Hill. Then as he comes up Hallwood Hill into the Druids, a nice delicate line, riding a little bit of the curb, pushing the car wide on exit to get the maximum power down the hill. It's coming to Graham Hill Bend. This is a corner that's caught a number of drivers out, but not our race leader Ambient Stub able to get through nice and cleanly as he goes through Cooper Straight into Surtees and around McLaren, riding the curb nicely on both sides. Gets the car slowed down for clearways and onto the Clark curve, onto the Brabham Straight. Very smooth lap here by our race leader as he's coming round on the final lap. 51 laps completed. Ambient Stub has said he'll be happy, I'm sure. He'll be happy to get the wins. I'm also sure he'll be looking forward to the battle up ahead with the other drivers behind. A fair few incidents stopped the front runners from having good races, the type of races that we saw in the sprint race, as Ambient Stub takes to one side, allowing the green BMW of Ben Apex around for another lap. You see him flash lines, and that is Ambient Stub. Ambient Stub takes victory in both of the inaugural Fresh Sim Racing vintage touring car events. That's a win in the sprint and the feature race for Ambient Stub, who's had a fantastic race. Very quiet, very calculated, but he's been able to rack the laps up and get the win. It's been a fair few instances behind that other drivers have been caught up in, specifically around Graham Hill Bend. A few drivers gone around. We lost Renier team to a few. He had 3 major collisions and just racked up a bit too much damage to be able to continue. So 11 drivers started the race, 10 drivers finished. Ambient Stub is your race winner for the second time today. And these are the feature race results. Ambient Stub takes first position, Inter All Sorts in second, Sam Thumbringer takes third in the end, Mikey 8ball in fourth, Ben Apex fifth, Lord of Lincoln sixth, Ollie Great Recovery Drive in seventh, Nathbit in eighth, Jeff Spencer in ninth, Wayne 10th, and Renier team did not finish. As we look to the driver standings, Ambient Stub on top after 2 race wins, 98 points. Interall Storts behind 93 with Sam on 91. The next 2 drivers on 88 and 84 points. Lord of Lincoln behind them in 80. Nathbit with 77. Arlie 1 point behind with 76. Jeff Spencer 6 points behind. Wayne 1 point behind him on 69. And Renier team finding up the drivers on 25 points. Thank you very much for everyone for watching, and we hope to see you soon.